I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, it's Saturday, so let's do kind of the blogs that I enjoy doing the most, kind of the mental attitude, the positive affirmation in investing and getting your mind set and how to optimize your life in other ways. So here we go. I'm going to rapid fire a bunch of things here. I'm going to kind of call this one kind of surviving the COVID winter, because, even though the vaccine is here and the light is at the end of the tunnel here, and we're going to get through this, I think by this time next year, things will be much different. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of now booking some travel plans for late spring, early summer. I'm an optimist. It's been a year since I've done any traveling here. I want to get to New York. I've got to get down to California. I've got family down there. So I'm already starting now to book some tentative trips here for late spring. I'm hoping by then the quarantine will be over. At least we can travel a bit more and everything else. But it's going to be a pretty dark 2 or 3 or 4 months here getting through the winter, our doom and gloom days here in Vancouver. So I want to give you guys some rays of sunshine here, some optimistic stuff here. A lot of people ask me, and I've done many blogs on this, what are some of the things that I use, some tools or some podcasts and that I listen to? So, I've done this, mentioned this many times. One of my favorite podcasts that I want you guys to start listening to is the Tim Ferriss podcast. Go on to Spotify, you can go on to YouTube. Tim Ferriss is a wealth of incredible information, because what he does, and I don't like all his episodes, there's many that I skip through, but at least once or twice a month he posts some real gems. So he's interviewing high-level people, CEOs, entertainers, athletes, investors from all walks of life. Again, not all the topics I'm interested in, but the thing that makes him so different is that when he interviews these successful people, he dissects what their traits, what their habits, their thinking, their mentality, and you can learn so much from this. I have picked up so much incredible information on his podcast over the last 5 years. You should also read some of his books. But here's one you should have a listen to. He just recently interviewed Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian. And it turns out Seinfeld, and that's the nice thing about Ferriss as well, he's getting access now to some A-level celebrities now, because he's gotten so popular that many of these celebrities are fans of him. Seinfeld apparently, had read his books and listens to his podcast. So he was enthusiastic to finally get interviewed by Tim Ferriss, which is incredible. But have a listen to it. I bet you've never heard Jerry Seinfeld like this. I never have. And that's what makes Tim Ferriss so interesting. He interviews these people and gets them delving into their personal traits that they never talk about, usually. I've never heard Jerry Seinfeld talk about some of the traits and habits and routines that he uses. For instance, I bet you guys didn't know that Jerry Seinfeld is a dedicated fitness enthusiast. Weight resistance training, does some bodybuilding training, does 3 days of heavy weight training and then 3 days of cardio, has a personal trainer. I had no idea. I knew he stayed in pretty good shape. I was surprised to learn, maybe you guys will too, Jerry Seinfeld is 66 years old. He doesn't look 66. And the reason for that is he has a very disciplined fitness routine and his diet. He talked about, and I didn't know any of this, he talked about, someone gave him a book, it's a book called Body for Life by Bill Phillips. It's a book that I read many, many years ago. Incredible book. You guys should pick it up. If you're looking to get your life optimized in other ways, especially in fitness and staying in shape and everything else, that's a good book to read. But Seinfeld read this book 15 years ago and then got into weight training and cardio and working out in the mornings and getting a trainer and watching his diet. And, it gives him his edge. And this is so common with these high-level CEOs, successful people. I've talked about it. They have their life optimized. They're watching their diet. They're getting enough sleep. They're working out regularly, 3, 4, 5 day a week workout routines. It doesn't have to be 3 hours in the gym. 45 minutes, 30 minutes even, 4 times a week is all you need. And Seinfeld basically says, he wouldn't be able to continue the pace he does the number of shows that he does and the traveling he does every year if he wasn't staying in shape. And that you will see that as a common thread through so many of these guys that he interviews. I talk about that one that when he interviewed Bob Iger from Disney, another guy who is a fitness fanatic, has a personal trainer, trains every morning at 5 a.m. These are little things that you can learn so much about. Seinfeld as well is very regimented. He gets up, he writes every single day, 6 days a week. I think he said he writes jokes and storylines. No matter how he feels, he gets that in, and that's what's kept him at the top of his game for so many years. And you notice that with a lot of people. I know people I associate with, that I know, we've all got routines. We're optimistic, we stay positive, we get into routines and try and get better. So have a listen to that Jerry Seinfeld one. I think you guys will like it. Another podcast I like as well is one called Valuetainment. Valuetainment. He's a hedge fund guy who, again, has access to some high-level guests. Not all of his topics and stuff I like. He has a thing for mobsters, mafia guys. He interviews a lot of mafia guys. They can be pretty interesting. Everything from drug kingpins to CEOs to professional bodybuilders. But he's another guy that kind of delves into the habits of these guys, their personal routines. What does a typical day look like for them? And you'll start to notice pretty quick that these successful people, all again, they're very regimented. They have these routines. They work out. They eat right. They get enough sleep. It sets them up for success in other parts of their life, their career and work and going to school or athletics or whatever. So he's another good one. Again, not all the topics you're going to like, but he delivers some good stuff every month as well. Final couple of things I'll say here too, getting through the COVID winter. Guys, I've pounded it home so many times. Be careful what you're taking in and what you're absorbing. As you guys know, I've tuned out most of the mainstream media because most of it is negative. Unfortunately, I am exposed to this stuff because we have a media liaison person in our office that sends us all the media 5 days a week. That's in the newspapers, on BNN, whatever, on real estate, and some of it's on investing and things like that. So I'm exposed to a lot of this stuff. And it's endless, the stuff that I read, that I think this is almost criminal, what some of these people are writing, this doomsday stuff. They make stuff up. I saw one here recently. It was a so-called, financial article on real estate, even though, as I've said before, these people have no background in real estate or finance or economics or anything. They're just paid by the article, kind of right out of community college, I think, most of them. That's the way these things read. But he had the old analogy, rent versus own. It was pathetic. I mean, this thing was so one-sided, basically saying that, hey, renting isn't that bad. You can rent and save the difference. The numbers that he plugged in were laughable. The numbers he was plugging in were assuming that you could rent a condo in downtown Vancouver for $1,500 a month, and your rent would never go up. So he didn't index it to inflation or rent increases. He based the renting and saving the difference based on an annualized rate of return of 8%. You're dreaming on that. 8% annualized return. You might be able to get that in short spurts, but to get that year over year for 25 years, that is going to be tough to do. And the other thing is, of course, you would have to be 100% in equities. Most people would tell you, these financial guys do a 60-40 portfolio, 60% equity, 40% bonds. You'll never eke out anything near that type of return. So the return on the invest the difference is way off. Never talked about the 1.7, 1.8% interest rates we're currently at. Had a much higher annualized interest rate on that. I think he had plugged in something like 5%. Now, interest rates might get up to 5% 10 or 15 years from now, but for right now, they're a fraction of that. Never talked about the principal residence exemption, how all those capital gains go tax-free. I won't bore you with the rest of the details here. It was again, it is just so crazy, the stuff that I see out there. And unfortunately, some people will look at that and say, hey, see, honey, renting is the way to go. But of course, there is no savings. And most people do not have the discipline to save any difference there is, which there isn't any anyways. And if they did, you better be in penny stocks, because you're never going to get that type of return in the broad market. But I see this stuff all the time. You guys, I'm pounding at home. Stick with people that have got transparency. You've got to be an optimist. There's always going to be dark clouds out there. But you've got to stay positive, especially moving into this COVID winter here. There is going to be a lot of negativity, a lot of bad news here for the next 3 or 4 months. You've got to get through it. Put your blinders on. I'll give you the final tips here. I've got a personal trainer, nutritionist, because I'm a big believer in staying in shape and eating right and sleeping. Here's a tip that my trainer has given me as well. He tells me, and this guy's pretty experienced nutritionist, he tells me that most people today are walking around dehydrated and sleep deprived. 80%. 80 to 90% of the people. So here's a big thing that might just help you getting through the COVID winter. Drink more water. Most people are dehydrated. You should be drinking several gallons of water a day. You almost have to force yourself to drink water. Most people are dehydrated. Most people as well are sleep deprived. You're not getting enough sleep. You should be trying to get 7-8 hours sleep. Everybody's different, but hey, that's at the top of my priority chain, is making sure I get enough sleep every day. Sometimes I can't, and I feel it. But to stay on top of my game, I'm getting a solid 7-8 hours sleep. I drink lots of water. I work out 5 days a week, and I watch my diet. It doesn't mean I can't have pizza and a chocolate bar. I do. But those simple things, my trainer always tells me, would go a long way to people, their attitude, their mindset, just their overall feelings of well-being would be much improved if you got a little more sleep and drank a little more water. But try and stay positive. You know, I'm starting to read some stuff on being more stoic. Also, I'm starting now trying to get into some meditation. I've got a friend that's slowly getting me into transcendental meditation a little bit, and I'm enjoying that. I'm starting to do a little more yoga. But anything you can to get your mind off these dark clouds of COVID. You got to get, start feeling better. Tune out a lot of the mainstream media, as I say. It's mostly negative. It's like, shooting yourself with a bad drug. And I don't think people realize, what it does to your psyche, taking in all this negative news. That's all it is now. You don't hear too many feel-good stories on the news. And start listening to podcasts like the Tim Ferriss blog, and start dissecting what these really successful people do, like a Jerry Seinfeld or a Bob Iger. Those are the kind of people you want to emulate and follow and learn from. You don't want to be following these doomsday guys that are just negative and angry and bitter. And Twitter is a prime example of that. I spend very little time on Twitter. I've got a couple thousand followers. I'll tweet out some stuff every week, but as you guys know, I don't engage on Twitter because overall, I think Twitter is a nasty place. Too negative, too much doom and gloom, just too much petty waste of time, most of it, as is a lot of the social media. I'm Owen Bigland. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.